It's the used car salesman approach often is what I see the too many people
Yeah.
kind of fall into when they think social media and content and like how do I grow my business, right? Trying to get outside of that mindset is the first important thing that you have to understand when you go into content. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Video Marketers Vault podcast. For those out there who are new here, my name is Evan Andrews. And if you are a business owner out there and you're watching this podcast, on this podcast, we want to outline and show you every single way that you can infuse video content into your marketing strategy so that you can take your business to new heights in 2025 and even beyond. If you're new here and you're just now discovering me, or maybe you're revisiting, if you haven't already, make sure you go hit the subscribe button and get notified of all of our latest pieces of content that do come out, because we do put a ton of it out here. Today, we are going to be talking about the aspect of lead generation specifically, and what works and maybe what doesn't work, and hopefully provide a little bit of context about something you guys out there may or may not be doing. But I have a special guest with me today, Mr. Tony Gnau. Tony, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
I know we just talked off camera, and when I put your spelling up of your name, your last name to me does not scream the word now, but I always have a good chuckle about that in the Slack channel and
Yeah,
everything.
no,
But
I always kind of joke with people when people ask me how I pronounce my name. I say, "Oh, just how it looks." It's like, no, it's nothing like that
I
at all.
love that. I love that. Yeah, that probably leaves them a little head scratcher for them.
Yeah,
There. But no, that's good. But yeah, Tony, again, thank you for taking the time out today. Today's topic, like I mentioned, is around the lead generation aspect. And lead generation for most people is kind of the lifeblood of their
hmm
business, right? You probably heard that a time or two before. But yeah, leads. Everybody wants leads these days, right? But how do we go about getting them? You and I both know, because of the profession that we're in, right, that video content has become kind of the number one vehicle for people to be able to generate leads, nurture leads, get leads that through their pipeline ready to purchase and work with them. But today we're going to talk about kind of three things overall, and that's just really the importance of your messaging around the video content that you're putting together, um, providing value right inside of that content so that the leads go from interested to ready to buy, and then just honestly just some common pitfalls, right, that really I see with a ton of videos out there, and how people are specifically using video to generate leads. But before we really dive super deep into it, I just want you to educate the audience, Tony, on who you are, what it is that you
sure.
do, and who you help serve.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I started my video journey actually as a TV news reporter. I was a TV news reporter for about 10 years, and then decided that I kind of wanted to get away from that and do my own thing. And I wasn't happy with the stories that I was getting to tell. And this is going back to the early 2000s at this point. So,
Oh
we
wow.
were still all on dial up modems and
Yeah.
everything. But as somebody who was in media, it didn't take a genius to figure out that we're going to be able to start watching more and more video and television and so forth online. And so as a reporter, I was always handed videotapes by companies when I would like go to do, some sort of a story on them. They'd give me their corporate video. They were all just universally terrible. And so I thought, you know what? Somebody's getting paid to make these these videos, if they could do about, a good job, they could probably make a living off of this. So that's kind of what I decided to do. At the time I was in Cincinnati, and I moved back to my hometown of Chicago and started my own video production company. And I was going to do corporate videos, and I sort of just grew it slowly. I got a day job at WGN TV in
Hmm.
Chicago, just as a news writer and a producer. And then when I wasn't at the station, I was building my own production company. So it's sort of a very slow build, kind of your classic,
Yeah.
side gig. And
Yeah.
then just eventually over time, after about 10 years or so, I decided to just go out completely on my own and do the video production companies. That's what I've been doing now for the
Love it.
last 10 years. So
I
this
love
is
it,
like
man.
kind of 20 years in the making
Right.
here, doing corporate videos, but just love it. I mean, I just love storytelling. And now my business is like hyper focused on the healthcare sector. So we are
Nice.
healthcare video specialists.
Yeah.
And that's the type of videos that we're producing these days. But I
Love
mean,
it.
over the years, I mean, we've certainly covered virtually like every sort of service industry you can imagine, and done every kind of business you can think of. So it's been quite the journey.
Well, we all kind of start off like that, don't we? Until we kind of
Yeah,
figure out what's more viable and economical, and the things that we actually like to do, right?
exactly.
So, but I love to hear that you were in kind of the news space, because kind
Hmm.
of the first point of action that I kind of had for us was talking about really the importance of messaging, right? So I
Yeah,
think that your news stories, you had to be really clear on what the message was within the news story, or you probably
right,
didn't have very good ratings, right?
right.
But in I guess I'll get your take on the importance of messaging. Like for me, I think it's being as clear and simple as it can be. But you know, some people might want more out of that. I don't know. I like when I watch an ad or whatever we're talking about, like if they go off on a tangent of something that, I'm quickly lost. Right.
Right.
But what do you think makes effective messaging overall inside the videos and the content and stuff that you create for your clients?
I mean, I think the key to it all is knowing who your audience is and
Mhm.
making sure you're delivering messaging that is relevant to them, you know? And I think one of the big mistakes that I see a lot of businesses fall into is they're actually creating content for themselves. They're creating content that they think is amazing and
Right.
that they think everybody else should think is amazing. And they
Yeah.
don't take the time to really understand their audience and what their audience is interested in and creating content for them.
No, I
And
agree.
I think that's the disconnect that I find with a lot of businesses. So when it comes to messaging, it's really understanding your audience and knowing the message that is going to really have relevance to them and move them to action, and focusing on that. Forget about yourself and what you
Sure.
think is great, and
Sure.
focus on your audience.
Yeah, because I think that's where, we're really close to things, right? Like
Right,
us as the media guys, like we're really close. So like we understand something. Also, like let's say one of the, healthcare physicians or whatever you might work with,
right,
right? They're really close to whatever it is that they're doing. So in their head, whatever they're saying makes sense. But it
right.
doesn't always make sense to who they're ultimately trying to talk to. And I do agree with you that I think it can quickly get lost when it's kind of like a fast track, right? I do it a lot with,
Yeah,
some of you guys over in the program, right? Where it's kind of like I have to slow myself down a little bit and think like, well, okay, I don't know exactly how much this person knows up
right.
into this point, right? So I catch myself in doing that a ton myself. But, you know, the two biggest places, if we're talking about maybe ads or content, like general social media content or something
Mhm.
like that. The two biggest places of focus and emphasis that I think most people can and should start with would be the beginning and the end, right? So our hook, right at the
Mhm.
beginning, what is the reason that somebody should watch this video or this piece of content? And then at the end, what are we telling them to do, or what should they get out of it, or what should that next step look like? And too often in my experience, I just see, and again, I always use service businesses as an example because that's kind of
Yeah,
just if you offer a service, that's who I help. But reach out, give us a call. But there's no phone number or there's no like interactivity within that thing. And
details.
yeah, and even so, like you could put your phone number on the screen, right? But
Right.
how many people are actually going to leave the app, go to the
Yeah,
phone, and actually call? So that's why I believe like the end and your call to action, it should be easy, like one click easy for people to be able to do,
right.
because what's next for them? The dopamine scroll, right? It's not the thing that you just told them to do
Yeah.
most of the time. But if we make it super easy for them, that's when we usually uh see good results there. But tell me, in your opinion, how you think, let's talk about the beginning of it, so the hooks, right?
Mhm.
What do you go through, or what do you think about when you have to create a hook? Because hooks are different, right? Depending on if is it a long form? Is it a short form?
Right.
What is it? Like, but what do you go through when you're thinking about like, okay, how am I going to get people interested in watching this thing?
Yeah. I think one of the things that I always think of first is, what's some sort of declarative statement or something, a strong opinion, something that is really going to catch people's attention and draw them in, and it's sometimes it can be posing a question to people,
Mm,
but just what is something that is going to grab their attention and make them want to continue watching. And I have often found if you have a strong opinion about something or you can make some sort of a strong declarative statement of some sort, that grabs people's attention. And so depending on, what type of business you have and, what some of the things are that you do, finding a hook like that where it's like, hey, I really believe in this, and being able to start with that and grab people with that is always a good thing to do.
yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. Part of that too sounds like consistency of like the messaging overall
Mhm.
should be important to the process. No.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think it's like the more people see from you, the more they're going to feel like they get to know you. And I mean, I can tell you just like, from my own personal experience with content, I mean, like, I will meet people that follow me online or, look at me on LinkedIn, whatever it might be. And like they know things about me because of the videos that I'm creating, and most of the time it's because of that introduction of some sort. Like my big thing is I hate sizzle reels. Like I do not like sizzle reels. And for somebody that might not know, a sizzle reel is just sort of a compilation of highlights from other videos or something from a video production standpoint. And I always look at those things and I'm like, if I'm hiring a video production company, how does that help me? Because that's, it's just a highlight reel that doesn't show me like what they really going to end up doing for me. And it drives me nuts.
Yeah.
And so like I have all sorts of content surrounding this where I'm always making these like really firm, opinions on sizzle reels. And
Yeah.
people will come up to me and talk to me about it. Like they will say things to me about that all the time. So it's like when you start your videos like that, they don't reference anything else in the video other than like, I'm not gonna do anything about sizzle reels. Don't worry, or whatever. It's like, and I know it's that hook that you're talking about. It's
Yeah.
it's that beginning of the video that they have has caught their attention. And it's amazing what the power of something like that can do. And when you're doing it consistently, to your point.
Yeah. I was talking to a client of mine who is in like the real estate media space.
Hmm.
And he was talking about the kind of content that he was making for his real estate clients. And it's
Hmm.
you've probably seen some of them. It's the like the house comes in and it smashes the ground and then it like moves really fast and then whatever and then some, transition here and it's like 15 seconds and it's boom. I told him, I said, that kind of content actually is more beneficial for you than it is your client.
Yeah.
And he didn't really understand why. And I had to say, well, because what's the overall question that usually that piece of content, gets asked? Like, how did you make that video?
Right. Right.
And that does nothing for the real estate agent. That only goes back to you as the media creator, which is
Yeah.
fine and well for us, but we're all about providing value and making stuff for the people that we're serving.
Right.
And I agree with you that sizzle stuff, like I look at the sizzle stuff like wall art, right? Like it's nice to have and it's nice to look at, right? But at the end of the day, um, is it really doing anything for the advancement of the content of the business itself, right? And
Yeah.
oftentimes the answer is no. But you know, here and there, it's nice to have a little something flashy to say,
I mean,
this is
there's
cool.
nothing wrong with flash here and
Sure.
there. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. No, I love that. And so that kind of segues really good in terms of like value that we're providing, right? Because that's my
Mhm.
kind of second point of emphasis for our conversation here today is just providing value to the leads before they they do that kind of exchange with us, right? Because if they're
Right.
going to give us their name, their email, and even their phone number, or even other information, right? We have to do something to allow them to be able to do that. The first thing that I always tell people, if you're talking about investing in content, right? I think just education in general is the first thing that you can like
Yeah.
really do. But I don't know what your kind of thoughts are, what you tell clients when you say like, "Hey, yeah, we can make content," and they maybe bring up the sizzle reel stuff. How do you say like, "Okay, where do we provide the value?" Like, what do you go through with that?
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think it's kind of content marketing 101. You want to bring value to your audience. And the more you do that, the more you're positioning yourself as an expert, the more you're positioning yourself as someone that can be trusted, that, if we come to you with our business, you're going to take care of us. And so I think education is a hugely important thing to do when you're building out your content. And so, I mean, really those any sort of awareness type video that you're doing, if you can do it surrounding some sort of education for your customers or your clients, that's going to put you in a stronger position moving forward for the rest of their client journey.
No, man, you hit it. You hit the nail on the head there for sure. What are, I guess, what are some like a big way that we can do that, right? Outside
Mhm.
of the content itself, like so next step after content might be some sort of lead magnet, right? I think
Mhm.
I talked a couple episodes ago about lead magnets specifically, but what I mean, in anything that you've ever done or tried yourself, maybe for yourself or for clients or anything like that, what are some effective lead magnet techniques that you've implemented yourself?
I think that any sort of video that you're going to provide as a lead magnet, again, needs to start with education.
Hmm.
And then obviously you want to bring in how you are able to help whatever that issue is that you're talking about,
Of course.
so that, because it's like that lead magnet is part education and it's part promotion.
Sure.
But you have to understand that there's a balance there. So you don't want to just come all in on, hey, I'm Tony and here's what I can do for you and how I can help, and everything. You don't want to go that route. You want to
Right.
go with the route of, okay, here's an issue that you might be facing. There is a way to solve it. Here is kind of how I think you can solve it. And oh yeah, by the way, we do that.
Yeah.
We can help you with it. If you feel like this is too much for you, then give us a call and we'll help you.
Sure.
So it's more along those lines.
Yeah, it's the used car salesman approach often is what I see the too many people
Yeah.
kind of fall into when they think social media and content and like how do I grow my business, right?
Right.
Everything is the same. It's this is who we are, this is what we want you to do, and come on down to Roy's Auto because we got the clunker for you or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So trying to get outside of that mindset is the first important thing that you have to understand when you go into content. But uh, I love lead magnets because it's it's that like next natural stepping stone, right? So you have a
Mhm.
let's say a piece of short form content that is providing education. I don't know. I'll use the healthcare area, right? Like that that you're targeting right now. So they make a piece of content about some kind of like back pain, right? We
Right.
often think like, oh, it can only be one like you might think it's in your muscle, but it's actually in like your spine or something like that,
Right.
and you might have a remedy or something that can help you identify that, and that could be done through like a checklist or some kind of like PDF explanation of like touch point therapy or something like that. Hey, if you put pressure here and you don't feel anything, then it's probably coming from XYZ. But being able to give somebody that after a video is is something that they can take, do on their own, right? And then now you've provided the goodwill of allowing them to know about the problem. You've
Right.
allowed them to go and diagnose the problem a little bit further on their own time without kind of that force fed kind of
Right.
feeling that sometimes content can give us. And now what are they going to do when they absolutely need to do something about it? They're going to know where
Right.
to go because you have already provided them so much value up until this point. One of my
Exactly.
most successful lead magnets, honestly, was like a 15-page PDF document, right?
Yeah.
That yes, I ran an ad to, video ad to the PDF, but
Right.
they don't always have to be videos after videos after videos after videos. They can be
Right.
these easy digestible trinkets, if you will.
Sure.
And that's why I love lead magnets. But the my favorite, and I will speak on this until probably the day that I'm put to my grave, but social proof
Hmm.
and the importance of showcasing that, right?
Yeah.
Um, there's several ways that you can do it, and you and I think, both know and are the understanding that video testimonials are probably they're going to be stockpiled like bricks of gold
Yeah.
here, in the next 10. You're just going to be able to go to people's pages and just see, instead of seeing a bunch of Google reviews, you're going to see video testimonial after video testimonial
Right.
after video testimonial. um and I would assume that would be super tangible for somebody like you serve in the medical industry, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
is
Yeah.
there
And I
is there areas where you have to be careful with it? Because I know, like, for example, like weight loss stuff is very touchy feely, whatever, right? Like, you can't
right.
say and make certain claims, but tell me a little bit about uh testimonials in your opinion, and how you can best utilize them.
I mean, I think testimonials are always going to be the best thing for conversion. When you've got somebody at the end of their customer journey and they are in that position to buy or don't buy, hire or don't hire, that testimonial can put them right over the top. And I think testimonials are valuable no matter where you use them throughout,
Yeah.
that customer journey, but especially at the very end when that person is making that final decision to hand them a video of somebody else who is in the same position that they were in, that is telling them, this is how I solved the problem and it was by hiring them. That is as powerful a statement as you can possibly make for your own credibility, for your own getting that person over the finish line. So that is their testimonials are incredibly important. The thing that we always try to tell our customers about is that you don't just want your normal video that you see frequently with testimonials where it's just a talking head. Hey, Evan did a great job for me, and I really appreciate it, and he helped us out and he made great videos for it. I mean, that's fine, but it's like the more you can tell a story, that
Mhm.
person's story, the more
Yeah.
effective that testimonial is going to be, because ultimately what you want is that viewer at the other end looking at that person giving the testimonial going, wow, they're just like me. They're in the same business as me, or they have the same problem that I have, or whatever it might be. And they start relating with that person that they're seeing on screen when you're telling their story. And then when you get like, halfway through the video or whatever, and you start to reveal, it's like, oh, well, this company is the company that helped me solve this problem. Now, all of a sudden, that has so much more weight to the person who's watching it because they trust that person that they're hearing the story from.
Yeah.
So it's really thinking about that, from a storytelling perspective, and how can you do this? How can you draw them in, get them relating to that person that is giving the testimonial, so that when they ultimately deliver that news of, hey, this is who helped me do it, and you should hire them as well, they'll be like, wow, okay, I'm going to hire them.
No, I agree. I mean, you said the exact word that I was looking for was story, right?
Yeah.
And I think story only really comes through in the most powerful way when the testimonials are invested in monetarily, right?
Hmm.
Having somebody like you or I come in and be able
Right.
to tell that story. Because if I just approached a client and said, "Hey, can you record yourself making a video saying X, Y, and Z?" Right? One, it feels super forced,
Right.
right? And you're not able to really draw out and touch on that emotional aspect of really doing exactly like you said, transforming that viewer from that person was exactly like me, and now they look like they're on the other side of what it is that I'm currently suffering from. Maybe this is the right thing for me to do, and
Right.
and take this next step, right?
Right.
And I tell people that all the time. Like, if you were to invest in any reoccurring video content, if you did nothing else, It would be every month, find the best client that you served and have them sit down with somebody like you or I and actually have that
100%.
story told.
Absolutely.
And I think that's going to be the future sales page,
Yeah.
right? It's just
Yeah.
instead of this long text-based sales page, I mean, it's just gonna be like, "We do this. Don't believe us? Here's this person. Here's this person.
Yeah.
Here's this person. Here's this person." And that's gonna be ultimately what gets people to buy in the future overall. I just personally believe that.
Yeah.
But
No, I totally agree. I
yeah.
totally agree.
But, yeah, Tony, I mean, that kinda brings us to the end of this episode, about, lead generation, what's working, what's not, what we commonly see as the main downfalls are, of all of this. But, is there anything that you maybe wanted to touch on that I didn't allow you the opportunity to do here today?
Sure. I think that, probably the biggest issue that I see so many businesses having when it comes to some sort of video marketing that they want to do is that they don't have a strategy for it. They
Mhm.
don't have a plan. Somebody has told them or they've noticed where it's like, you should do a video. Yeah, we should do a video, exactly. But there's no real plan or strategy behind what they're going to do. And then they just go make the video. Sometimes it's because somebody has a great idea, a great creative idea for a video,
Yeah.
and that's great. I'm glad that you're getting excited about video and you think it might be a solution for you. But ultimately, if it's going to be a success for you, if it's going to help you generate leads, you're going to have some sort of a strategy behind it. It's
Yeah.
not just do a video or do a few videos. There needs to be a plan. And
Yeah.
so, before you begin that journey, before you start going down that road of producing videos, do that. Come up with a strategy and then move forward.
No, I totally agree. I don't know how many times it happens to you, but you get a new lead or you get a referral or somebody that was sent to you, and what's the first thing they have? I have this great idea for a video that I
Right.
want to do. And it's like it 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 pains everything in me to have to say, okay, well, hold on, let's pump the brakes, right?
Let's
And
take a step back.
let's figure out what exactly we're trying to do, because
Yeah.
you kind of, I feel like I'm just killing people's creative freedom, if
Right.
you will.
Right.
But I never make it that's my intent,
Yeah.
right? But I want to make sure that it is the right thing for them, because I feel like that's where I provide more value, as
Mhm.
a service that I do, because you and I both, we provide strategy for
Right.
people, right? And I think I have more, what's the word? I have more value to somebody where I can get them to rethink what they were thinking, cuz like you said,
Right.
like we could create this awesome video. I mean, Hollywood is a great example of this, right?
Yeah.
You can spend 2 years making a movie and it could bomb in the box office,
Yeah.
right? So I would hate for somebody, not that I would ever take 2 years to do a project for somebody, but
Let's hope
uh,
not.
you know, putting all of this effort and emphasis into something that we all both know at the end of the day, when it comes to your marketing strategies, like, it might not work,
Right.
right? And that's a tough pill to swallow sometimes, because you put a lot of effort, you put a lot of emphasis into something. And I think that's also a common reason why, service businesses, any business in general, if they try making content and it doesn't quote unquote work the first time, they
Right.
often stop,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
it's likely because they didn't go into it with a specific strategy. They were just doing because they thought that's what they were supposed to be doing,
Right.
right?
Right.
So I'm glad you touched on that, because I think, yes, having a clear strategy is probably the number one thing that's going to help you stay on that alignment path with
Yep.
content and generating leads, online, and throughout your sales funnels and different things like that. But Tony, again, I appreciate you sitting down with me today and, kind of talking about this a little bit. I really hope that, anybody that is listening to this can really understand that content is, it's not it's not a nice to have anymore, right? It
Yep.
is a definite must, even if it's not the main focus of a certain aspect of your strategy. It, in some way, shape, or form, is going to be utilized within the funnel that you're running.
Right.
And I just know that once more people see that it actually has the viability for them, that we'll see more people who used to be the skeptics become into the believers, right?
Yep.
So yeah, if you'd like to take a second, Tony, I'm gonna put all of this stuff in the bottom below in the description notes of this video, but let people know kind of your service area, where you work, anything like that that people want to know about you.
Sure. Well, T60 Health, covers the entire country. We've shot in more than half the states, all over the place. So, anybody, anywhere. We've shot in 2 foreign nations. So we'll
Oh,
go anywhere, anytime to produce healthcare videos, and we love doing it. They can find us at healthcarevideospecialists.com, or you can go to tonygnow.com as well. And yeah, that's about it.
nice, awesome, dude. Well,
Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. I think you're the first person on my podcast to mention LinkedIn. So props
All
to
right.
you. That's a great one because I think your ideal demographic is probably heavily on LinkedIn over there.
Yeah.
But that again brings us to the end of this episode. If you got all the way through it, thank you so much. Make sure that you like this video, subscribe, make sure that you get all the notifications, hit the bell there for all of the content that we put out weekly. And if you are somebody in the healthcare industry and your practice needs video content, make sure that you check out the show notes. Reach out to Tony here, and he will be able to help you swiftly and thusly. If you're in the Houston and surrounding areas, you can find more information about myself and Vandrews Media down below in the description as well. And until next time, we will see you guys on another episode.